All right, everybody, I'm going to get started this evening. And what I'm going to be talking about is consultative selling. This is part 3 of the Rocket Roadmap. So just to quickly recap, you should have gotten and downloaded all the materials from inside of the partner portal, inside of the knowledge base, inside of the Sales and Success Center. You should have all that stuff, and all that stuff, we went over it in the last part of this, that, you should be able to rebrand it or utilize it. In other words, or whatever your purposes are. If you're going to modify those documents to give to your salespeople, this whole webinar this evening is all about how are you going to utilize it. And I really want to talk about consultative selling because I get a lot of questions on this all the time. Just about everybody asks me, hey, Jake, can you walk me through a sale? Can you tell me how sales works in this industry? Just a lot of questions surrounding that. And I totally get it. I understand. I have always been an advocate of consultative selling. I don't understand really how you can really sell another way in this industry than being consultative. And so to that end, I've done quite a few different pieces of training material through the years. I've done a lot of webinars on this topic, that consultative selling is really the name of the game. And when you get good at it, it becomes second nature. The sales component kind of takes care of itself as long as you're a good consultant. And being a good consultant really doesn't require a whole heck of a lot. So what I'm talking about here, when I'm talking about consultative selling, tonight we're going to go through the consultation and selling, because they're two, kind of connected things. It's very important to have a grapple on what consulting is, what sales is, how the two play together, and what it means to be a consultative salesperson. Next up is the process. And I'm going to touch upon that as much as I can. I'm going to cover that a little bit, talk to you about the process. You've sold somebody, that's great. Now what? The process is a big part of this, being able to go out there and to, very confidently approach, the process from the perspective of understanding, comprehending, knowing how to guide your client, managing expectations, handling follow-up, scheduling, and all that stuff. And then lastly, upselling, right? Because after you've done a good job for somebody, they're more apt to spend more money with you. Recently, I was on the phone with somebody, and I was talking to them, and they were talking about, their sales and how they were going after people. And they were, this was a really sharp guy, really intelligent and everything like that. And he had a good grapple on sales, good grapple on marketing. But when it comes to this industry, one of the names of the game here isn't so much always focusing upon getting the big sale right now. A lot of it's about upselling people, because you're going to build that book of business where someone may start with you by spending $200 or $300 on a business listing. Very, very common scenario. But that same person in a month buys a website, 2 months buys an SEO campaign, and 6 months later, you're selling them everything, right? That's a big part of this as well. Keeping that relationship clean and keeping that relationship professional, making sure that you're following up with clients, you're punctual, you're delivering on promises, you're making good promises in the first place, things you're going to actually carry out, and then going through and handling that whole upselling process. So these are the 3 points, right? Consulting, process, and upselling that I'm going to cover here. Now, okay, inside this Rocket Driver Partner Portal, we've got a lot of information, right? You have all this stuff here. And amongst all this stuff, if you go to any of these digital services, right? If you go over to like reputation management, for example, and you go to features, the cornerstone of being a consultative salesperson, the absolute bedrock, is understanding and being at least above your client, above your prospect in your knowledge of that service. So absolutely all of you, everybody who watches this video afterward and we publish it on YouTube, every partner that is here tonight, you really honestly have no excuse for not knowing a service when the information is all right here. All the pertinent points, all the sales points, all the basic information that you need to have down. It's all right here. And if you don't know something, you can always reference your partner portal, right? And if something isn't here, right, in the advent the client prospect asks you something that you don't know, you can always come to us. It all starts with comprehension. It all starts in training. A consultant, what is a consultant? First of all, what is that? What does that word even mean in the context of this industry? Well, a doctor is a type of consultant we're all familiar with, right? We count on that doctor knowing more about the human body than ourselves. If we know more than our doctor, it's probably not a medical doctor, right? It's probably not somebody you want to help you with your health. That's the same logic is going to apply every single time to every single prospect when you're out there in the field. It makes sense, right? If you go out to them and you can't answer basic questions, if you don't sound like you know what you're talking about, because you don't, if you don't understand what you're selling, if you can't do a off-the-cuff comparative analysis, you're going to look like an idiot. You're not going to get a sale. Consulting is about looking at a situation the way it is, not looking at it the way we wish it was. So you go into a client, right? And just as an example, I'll pull one of these just horrific websites up, right? I've grabbed some really bad sites. I love my bad site requests, right? Got these 3 different sites here, and they're hideous. This person says, what's wrong with my site? You have to be able to rattle off in like 10 seconds what's wrong with it, but in a diplomatic manner. You have to be able to articulate why what you have is better than what they've got. And if you look at this, you could, without any technical training, you should be able to see, colors are horrible. There's, the contrast is awful. It's unreadable basically on a desktop. Can't even imagine what this looks like on a smartphone. And I'll paste you guys this site, so anybody who wants to look at it and, check it out on a smartphone or whatever, you can. It's a hideous website, and it's a great example of a site that illustrates, just in bright neon letters, what can go wrong, or what sometimes goes wrong for businesses with sites. They've spent, obviously, somebody has spent a tremendous amount of time adding a huge amount of content, right? I mean, huge amounts. This site's probably, I don't know, I'm going to guess 300-400 pages. Dig in here, it might even be bigger. You dig into this, and it's just, product after product after product thrown in here. This thing's hideous. So if this person were my prospect and I'm trying to talk to them about why their site is screwed up, I'm not going to go and do like a comparison of WordPress versus our platform. I'm not going to get into, the weeds of it. This thing is so hideous that the person have to practically be blind to see why this is bad, to see why this has a problem. They're going to see it immediately. So what I like to do when I have these situations, consulting, assuming I know my platform inside and out, assuming I understand exactly how my platform works and the technical functions of it, what I can and can't do for them, I'm going to get into showing them competitors. I'm going to get into looking at their competitors. And to that end, something that we're on websites here, but this is really all services. This kind of applies to everything. I'm going to go and I'm going to show them, a snapshot listing scan, a snapshot report. I'm going to do a comparison, and I'm going to have my ammunition ready. So I'm going to bring this up, and you guys are all familiar with the snapshot report run for Angelos, right? This poor little company's been beat up. We've used them as an example of the snapshot report for a while. And you can walk through this thing and let the report do the talking for you in many instances, showing them, how things are. And, and they're going to have questions. We could limit this just to website, but I'm going to basically try to explain to this person very bluntly, very straightforward, where the problems are. I'm not here to try to hype anything. I'm not here to try to push anything on them. The first thing you have to always remember is that, like with consulting, with the way this process works, you don't have anything to actually sell in that moment, right? When you go in to talk to a prospect, you sit down with them and you start talking with them. It's not as if the site exists and you're trying to sell them a piece of digital real estate. What you're doing is you're selling them on yourself and on your process and getting them the end result that they want. So to that end, I don't start by asking them, what kind of a site do you want? And what I start talking about, well, I saw your site and I noticed it has quite a few, let's call them challenges, right? It's challenged aesthetically. It's challenged, in terms of its architecture. It's challenged in terms of the platform it's on. This is not a situation of somebody where, if your site were a person, plastic surgery is not going to make them beautiful. We need a total rebuild from the ground up, okay? We need to take this thing and rebuild it. And then I would go to something like a snapshot report and show them right off the bat, I'm going to show them their competitors, and I'm going to show them their competitors beating them everywhere, right? Even though I'm just trying to sell them a website, their competitors beating them in SEO, beating them on social, listings, reviews, advertising. All these other categories apply to my argument that this site is screwed up, right? Now, that's the client that's in denial, right? The person that's in denial, where you have to forcefully kind of convey, first of all, that you have a problem. Then you talk solution, and solution comes through as a discussion really about process. If you think about it, right? Most instances when you're having a discussion on a website and you're talking about, how you're going to improve things for them or what you're going to sell them, you're showing them sites that you've built before, right? You're going over to, your site, you're going over and you're walking them through, and you can bring them over to the website that you got from us. You could bring them over to the work section and show them, stuff that's in the portfolio, so they know that you can do good sites. At that point, though, the discussion pivots really to process. So first step is get them to agree that there's a problem. Second step is get your credibility that you can credibly carry out and do the work that will bring them a good outcome. And the next discussion is process. And process discussions are discussions that surround, content. Usually, guys, it works like this. When we sell a site to somebody, probably 9 out of 10 times, the process, it's so simple, it's almost like not a discussion for us because it's incredibly simple. We're taking an existing site most times. This is just most of the time, right? Say that I was selling, let's say, this company, Water on Wheels, whoever this company is, right? And it's just an example of another hideous little site. If I were selling them, most of the time, they're going to want the content that's here, but made to look like it belongs here, right? So they're going to want the site to existed, they're going to want the content from the old site migrated over, and basically they're looking to put lipstick on a pig. Essentially, you're trying to dress it up. The content rebuilding side of it, or rewriting content and changing elements, most of the time it doesn't apply. It's literally a copy-paste job to migrate content over. So we're building something that is platform upgrade, aesthetically upgraded, it's mobile, it's secure, it's safe, it's faster loading, it's got all those cool new features. But when it comes down to it, the process for them is simple. They're in a situation where it's like, okay, you buy the site, we're gonna, construct that draft, you're gonna go back and forth with support, you're gonna go back and forth with our developers, and you're gonna relay to them, and they're gonna relay drafts to them, and they're gonna relay edits back to you, right? And it's a simple, straightforward kind of a process that you're gonna walk them through. That's 90% of the time. But what about the situations where you're building either a site from scratch or it's a total rebuild in terms of they want to get involved in the content? The process, again, comes into play. If they're going to buy from you, they want to know what the next steps are, how they work, and what it is that they have to do to be able to get a good outcome. Well, it's very simple. It's a matter of conveying content over to you, right? It's a matter of responsiveness. It's a matter of the relationship and the communications all being clean and clear. And all of this stuff ties into each other, right? Process ties into consulting, ties into selling, and all of it. So what you want to do in that moment, very importantly, once someone knows they have a problem, again, and now they believe you that you are the solution, you can deliver the solution, it's important to convey to them the hand-holding, right? Letting them know this is not going to be a process where you're cut off and you're just on your own. We're going to be in communications. We're going to set up a schedule of times when we can talk. We're going to, you're going to set it up where you're going to get content from them. They can send you stuff. In instances where it's very necessary, this could be the point that sells it. It cinches the deal. You have to also realize what other web development companies put people through. Many, many times when you're talking about web development, you're talking about companies that are out there that are in our business and they're selling sites. They don't have a process, so to speak. If I was an individual developer, I know this because when I was like a young teenager, which is a long time ago, but the web still existed and I built sites. When I was doing that, I didn't have a process. I would just sell somebody a site and then go to work on it. And I would just work like a bat out of hell to get that site developed as fast as I could. And I would call them and talk to them all I had to. You have to have a defined process to get somebody who's looking to deal with a professional. But these people, individual developers and a lot of your competitors, they don't really have a process they walk people through other than buy and I'll start work. You have to have a sort of a premeditated path that you're going to take people through. And it's very simple. You're going to take that person, you're going to work with them, and you're going to communicate to them the entire process. And if you ever get stumped, right, and you say, what's the process, Jake? What's the process? Right here, digital services, web development, website platform features, just click any of those, go over to websites, one big long page, and you can scroll through this thing and you can read all about the process. Watch me talk about our process, and we go through the platform, the analytics, everything that's included, all the educational materials here. But the process being very important is extremely explicated here in extreme detail for e-commerce sites, for regular sites, the proposal, the contracts, what you have to get to us, how you have to get it over to us, and you have to be able to articulate all this. And you're going to have to figure out exactly how you implement all this at your company. How do you engage with your client or communicate that to your clients? Because, and why am I going on about this? I go on about this, and I've done an entire webinar on this. A major objection, the number one objection that you hear time and time again from people who are going to buy a site but back out, is that their fear of going through what they've gone through in the past, fear of a clunky, long, difficult, arduous process that puts them in a position where they either don't have a site for the time it's up, or it's frustrating them, or budgets inflate, another major stumbling block where, halfway through, and sometimes they're at fault for it. Sometimes they go into the process and they end up creating the inflation in price themselves by changing their mind halfway through. But nonetheless, that's the thing that they fear the most. They fear going down a road that is really bumpy with you. So you have to smooth them out. The consulting side of it, let's get into that a little bit more. Backing up here for a moment and going back to consulting and consultative selling, and I'll repeat myself, something I've said many times. A salesperson is like a doctor that all they see is broken legs. They want to put a cast on everybody's left leg instead of doing any analysis and figuring out what actually is wrong and what does that person need. You have to learn to be a consultant to be successful in this industry to a degree. You have to learn to look at this, look at the snapshot report, look at the website, look at what's before you, and do an analysis and say, okay, well, for this situation, they might have a great website. Well, what about ranking? Well, then SEO makes sense. And then what if they have a good site and they're ranking? Well, maybe social media works for them. Maybe they need listings. Maybe they need, their reputation protected, or maybe they need some omni-channel digital advertising. It's looking at what's there, figuring out what applies to that person's situation, and understanding that there's an order and a hierarchy to it. The first thing you always have to get right online is the website. Website's screwed up. Nothing else other than business listings. Business listings could apply to somebody that doesn't have a site. There are people on like Angie's List, individual contractors and stuff, people that might be like running landscaping companies or might be doing plumbing or something like that, where they don't have a website. All they have is that listing on Angie's List. That's about the only situation where listings will apply, potentially before a website. Even then, I'm going to try to sell them a website. Website's the first and foremost number one thing. After that, you want the site to rank, right? After it's ranking, then the other services apply, but it's always the bedrock of it. It's always that first service we focus on selling. And because of that, it's very, very important that, you approach that process, having done, your research. You have a new client, or you have a new prospect, you do your homework even beforehand. When you're marketing, you go and you do some basic work to take a look at their website, right? If I'm going to get on a phone and start wasting my time talking to somebody, I want to know, I'm not wasting my time. I want to know that there is a potential here. So, I'll go pull up their site, take a look at what's going on. Anyhow, it's a very, very straightforward thing. You have to make sure that you're handling things in the way that it needs to be handled. Website is a major, major part of the entire process, really critical. And it's not that difficult, right? Once you understand, really all you're doing is you're going online. Say I have this company. Say this company, Angela's Pizza, was my prospect. I run this snapshot report. Beforehand, maybe I ran the listing scan, right? I run that. And I know that this company has a lot of problems. I know they've got, listings are just absolutely abominable. The website was hideous. The report reflects bad site. It reflects just a bad overall internet presence, right? This is somebody that doesn't have a great internet presence. So I pull up their site. I see something, that's hideous like this, or, like that, something that just doesn't look very good. It's got problems. There's issues on it. Okay, they have a screwed up site. Okay, well, if they have a screwed up site, I don't even really need to do too much in terms of, looking at how are they doing for search or for other, in other means. I know that they've got a whole bunch of problems. And once I understand that, once I have that in my head and I know how their site is screwed up, the question is, what ways is this site screwed up? Because I'm going to know that I'm going into a discussion where I'm going to have to prove to somebody that their site's messed up to get them to buy into that, so that then I can talk to them about my solutions, right? And this all harkens back to a kind of a very simple principle about when is value added to a need, right? And think about this. We all have needs, right? Like we live in the United States. Most of us do anyway. They're on this call. And almost all of us need to have a car. When do features added to the car add value and trigger me to make a decision, right? The basic things that I need in a car: it needs to have 4 tires, it needs to drive, it should be reasonably safe, right? I don't want something that burns me alive. I have my needs, right? Then I have my wants and desires. Well, I'd rather have an 8 over a 6. I'd rather have leather over, cloth inside. I'd rather have whatever package, the tech package. That stuff, those things are add-ons after the fact. So we have to first establish the need, right? We have to first get someone to buy into that. Just like with a doctor. If you're sick and you go to a doctor, what do first? They analyze you and they figure out what's wrong with you before they start feeding you pills, right? Or whatever they're going to do. Before they operate, they make sure with an x-ray that there's something wrong inside. The same principle here. Before I get into a big lengthy discussion with a prospect about social media or listings or any of this, I'm going to make sure as a consultant, as a responsible business person, that there indeed is a problem. And then I go and I back it up by looking and I see that there's a problem, then I back that up with my logic. I back it up by doing my homework. I go to the site and I do something like go to tools, go to web developer, go to page source. I'll go and I'll look and I'll see where the problems are. I'll go and I'll run this thing through the competitor analysis and see, one site versus another. I pull up their local competitors. I build my case before I present it, essentially. So, and I build my case I'm building it as a consultant. A consultant's case is not a case that's pled in the realm of opinion, okay? Key difference here is consultant works in the realm of facts, okay, and reality. Objective reality, not subjective opinion. The opinion side of this is when you get into design and all the stuff that kind of comes later. But when I'm looking at something hideous, I'm looking at this, and yes, I will bring up like aesthetics and talk about how it's screwed up aesthetically. If it's like obvious, like there's, this, I don't know what you'd even call that thing, a pig jar, and the text on top of it's not readable. Well, it's not readable, right? If it's not readable by my eye, it's probably going to have problems with, other people are going to have the same problems I am. So being that I'm talking about this in the realm of objective reality, what I'm doing constantly is I'm scanning and looking, and I'll just do this in 5 seconds. Don't think that I'm telling you to like do research for a week or something crazy. I just have my little notepad there and I'll just scratch down the areas that I see that are screwed up that I can obviously show to a person that they're not going to disagree. Right? I'm going to talk about how, the site itself has, problems A, B, C, and D. I'll just grab 3 major problems. I'll go and I'll grab 3 competitors that are better, that are, say it's a statewide business. I'll look for 3 competitors in state. Maybe I'll look for 3 competitors worldwide that are doing the same thing at a world-class level, something that I'm going to actually reproduce and showcase to this person, something we may end up patterning our design after, right? So I want to make sure that I have my case built so that when I go on to that demo with that person, I go in with that game plan of knowing that, here are the problems. I'm going to present it really kind of just throw it right at them. That's one of the things I learned to do a long time ago. If there's an issue on a site, say I was talking to this company, Gates and Fences, I'm going to say, look, I'm going to walk in assuming that we're building them a new site. Be like, well, the site's getting rebuilt, right? So the discussion is, and if they come back with, what do you mean it's fantastic? Well, at that point, I have to go back and I have to change directions and convince them and show them that why it's screwed up by showing them competitors. But something that it's so bad that when I book the meeting, probably in my initial conversation, 9 out of 10 times, they're going to tell me they've got a problem. And what they're looking for direction. They're looking for somebody that can guide them through this whole maze of the internet and can do things for them, right? They're looking for you. If you come into your sales presentations asking questions like, what do you think is wrong with the website? What do you think should be done with it? Do you like, if you're asking them for direction, that takes all the confidence in the world away. It'd be like if I went to a doctor and I said, And you know, I go in and my doctor starts asking me, what do you think is wrong with you? Do you think you need an x-ray? Huh? What kind of pills would you like? You know, that's not what a doctor does. The doctor tells you, this is wrong with you. This is what I prescribed. This is what it's going to do. And this is how long it's going to take. And they walk you through that. That's a classical consulting relationship where they're walking you, they give you the plan. They do their research, ask you questions, prescribe a solution. And then then at that point, once that solution has been lobbed out there and thrown out there, right? Once we have, you know, a good idea of what exactly that problem is, that's when the selling comes in. That's when you sell them. You sell them on your plan of action and this course, okay? You're selling them on working with you, having you build the site, going through your process. They're paying you to go through that process of fielding them that site, of building and fielding that website, right? And they're going to do that. What's going to make trigger that person to buy from you? Well, there's several things that play a major role. Chief among them are they confident in you? Did you leave them with enough confidence that they feel like, you know what, if I give this guy or gal my $5,000, $10,000, I'm going to get a really great website. And also after that, are they confident that that site is going to make them money? Are they viewing this as an expense, something to prevent internet shame or something? Or are they viewing this as something that's going to make them money? They should be viewing it as something that is going to make them money. I've seen people sell sites based all on aesthetics and not based at all upon new features and new things being I've seen people sell a lot of sites in a vacuum, essentially. Not what you want to do. You want to get that business owner thinking of that site as an appendage of the business that should be making them money that probably isn't right now. But you are the person that's going to go in there. It's going to be rebuilt once. It's going to be rebuilt correctly. And after it's rebuilt, it's going to profit. You need to get that client thinking that. That plays a major role as well. Price plays a role, okay? And price plays a role in kind of a funny way because I've seen people lose deals going both directions, too expensive and too cheap. If you come into somebody's business and they paid $10,000 for their last website, you tell them, hey, I can build you a wonderful site for $500. Either they were scammed horribly, right? And think of the logic of that. The logic of that is either they were scammed horrifically by the last developer or you're a joke, right? Because you're charging so little, how can you afford to do something great? You can't be afraid of, you know, being, let's say, reasonably priced. I'm not even going to say high priced, just reasonably priced. You need to always buffer. I was talking to a guy not too long ago, and we were talking about price, and he was saying something to the effect of, you know, he told me a figure he was going to charge like per page, his retail prices. And I told him to throw an extra digit on the end of that. You know, don't be afraid to charge more money. Be afraid of delivering low value. Never be afraid to charge. Be afraid that your consulting is screwed up. Be afraid that you missed something in process. Be afraid of all the human errors that can accrue, but do not ever be afraid to charge people a premium for a website. By premium, I don't mean ridiculous, you know, $100,000 or some far out nonsense, but I mean coming in on the high side because you have a platform that's going to back it up. We are going to back that up. We're going to do everything we can. We're pros. We've done this thousands of times. We're going to build a wonderful site. Everything is going to be top flight that you actually get. So don't be afraid to sell it for top flight prices, but do be afraid, again, of process errors and issues. Anyhow, moving on from that, the reasons people don't buy, right, of all of them, I think the fact that a lot of people try to sell websites like their toaster ovens is a big reason why people don't buy. Because if you walk in and you just hammer somebody on one product, one service, but they don't sense that you applied it to them, are you going to buy it? And again, let's go back to our doctor analogy. Imagine I go to my doctor's office and without talking to me, he just goes, shh. He just tells me to shut up and then says, here's some pills. Eat them. Come on. You know you like them. Here, eat some pills. That's the equivalent of it, right? Where somebody's trying to shove something on me that I might have taken had they done an analysis and explained why I needed to take them versus just shoving it on me. Consulting is understanding the competitors, understanding the problem that they indeed do have on their site, understanding your service and how it can improve it, and understanding process. I'm telling you guys, I have talked to so many people through the years, but really a lot lately, that are not up on digital services, that do not know, that cannot answer basic questions. A lot of people. I've talked to a whole bunch of partners. You need to get in here and study the services that you're selling. This stuff should be like second nature. You should be able to rattle off the elevator pitch. You should have modified all those presentations to fit with your logo in them that I showed you in the last 2 parts of this little series. You know, you have to have all this stuff ready to rock and roll. Go in there and do it, guys. Okay, you've got everything right there at your fingertips, right? If you understand a service, it's impossibility that once you understand a service inside and out that you're not going to be consultative, because of course you are. You understand the different services and the different options that you've got before you. You know how to blend them together. It's really simple. It's not complicated. It's all guided right here by a snapshot report. This is the easiest way to keep not only yourself on the right page, but also your salespeople. It's really pretty simple, right? Website first, SEO second, everything else afterwards, and sell them listings if you can. This is a great door opener. And this is a good time to talk about upselling, right, guys? Because a big part of all of this is you understanding that you're opening the door with each and every person that enters your pipeline and becomes a client to any degree. I don't care if I land somebody for $5. They had to trust me enough to give me those $5. I closed them. Okay, maybe a very small sale, but I got them in the door. After someone's in the door and they are in your ecosystem and they can see the tools that you have at your disposal in terms of the analytics, the reporting, it's incredibly easy to upsell people. This business on whole, the entire business of really selling any development service, any kind of code-based anything, the whole game is all about upselling people. It's about going in there, presenting strong, landing the client, right? That becoming their trusted advisor where they trust you, you know. And I see some of you guys here like David say, somebody trust David or trust Brian or trust Susan or trust you, right? When that person has that trust for you and you come back and you show them another problem, they're going to listen. Number one, they're going to take your call because they're a client of yours. Number two, they're going to take you seriously because they did before and they gave you money. Presumably, they're happy with the service. They have no reason to doubt you. It's that much easier to upsell them. Every single person that you sell business listings to, and I want to stress this point, will eventually need a new website. Will probably, let's say 85, 90% chance they'll need SEO, or they'll want it at least. Not 100% chance they'll want to rank, right? Most of them are going to need social media. All of them need business listings, just about every business on earth should have that. Of course, reputation management just grows and grows every single year. The more people tear each other apart online and the nastier consumers, and the more we have entitlement culture growing and all that stuff, the more mayhem it's going on there. It's just a big arbitrage opportunity for us to go in there and sell reputation management, right? So no one's going to stop tearing each other apart. So, you know, reputation management, again, is a service that proactively applies to everyone. Advertising, omnichannel applies to a tremendous amount of businesses, not all, but a huge amount. The point is, you have a massive, massive market there. It really doesn't matter. You don't have to club people over the head and get all their money in one shot. Don't feel like a failure if all you sold was a business listings pack to somebody. You should sell that to everybody. That's why it's there, right? This is a powerful, powerful thing. You run these reports, right, for free, unlimited. You go out there and you sell business listings to people to get them in the door. Now they're in your ecosystem. It's incredibly easy to go back with, you know, a snapshot report in your hand, or to go back and to show them other services you've got and to upsell them, right? Just a big point. Now I'm going to take some questions right now. If anybody has any, feel free to punch them away. Otherwise, I'm going to be ending this webinar in about 5 minutes. Guys, it really is. I've done a lot of videos on this topic, and I'm going to go through and go into our back office. A lot of this stuff is here already, and especially you go to the Rocket Driver YouTube channel. I know I've done videos there as well. Go inside here, take some notes, you know, get yourself educated in our processes, in our services. Take the time to do this. This stuff may seem far off to you. I know a lot of people, kind of say, well, I'm kind of at the stage where I'm cold calling, or I'm kind of at the stage where I'm doing demos. If you're at that stage, that's when this applies the most. Okay, this is not like after the fact stuff that you need to know after you made a sale. This is stuff you need to know before you make a sale. You need to understand the limitations of what you can and can't say. You need to understand what's included in services. You have to have this stuff down. It's just like if you were selling a car and you had no idea what an engine was or what a tire was. How in the hell are you going to sell that to somebody? What about the person who asks you how many cylinders it's got? You don't know because you don't know what an engine is. You're going to be caught like the deer in the headlights. Don't get caught like that. Be a consultant. The consultant is out front educating the clients, educating the prospects, right? They're doing that. They're looking backwards at them. They're not, going into this process blindly pitching to people who know less than them and they figure, well, whatever. No, you have to have that genuine expertise, and that comes from studying, right? It comes from educating yourself in the materials that we provide for you. This is not, I want to stress this, rocket science either. Now, I'm not talking about you, becoming a PhD in web design or something like that. I just mean you need to understand, what website personalization is as an example. What is it? Somebody asks you, do you offer personalization? And what is that? Can you articulate that fluidly like I'm speaking right now? If somebody asks you, what does your hosting consist of? Can you explain what a CDN is? If somebody asks you, what security features does your platform have? Can you explain that? You need to be able to answer this stuff, and there's no way that you're going to be able to answer that stuff unless you educate yourself. Really, really critical, very important, and unfortunately not very difficult. It's not like, you have to go through and study this in extreme detail, because you don't. It's all right here. If you know the stuff that's in here, you just go through inside the Rocket Driver Partner Portal and you just say, okay, I want to sell websites. Okay, great. You're just going to sell sites. That's great. All of us can sell it. Believe me, we've been in business for about 10 years, and about 9 of them websites were our flagship and still are. If this is all you have to know, there's no reason in an afternoon you shouldn't be able to digest this information. I'm not saying commit it all to memory, but you should have a rough idea of what's involved in web development, how hosting works, how site development works. Take a look at the proposals and contracts. Just go through this stuff. Anyhow, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this evening, I guess. Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to punch it into chat. I hope everyone's doing good out there. I wish you guys, all of you, the best of luck out there in the making sales. And I want to stress one other point too, because right now, there's one last thing I wanted to say to you guys is that there are literally, I would guess, I don't know how many millions of businesses right now that the owners of them are home, right? They're social distancing, or they're in one degree or another slowed down. Some are reopening, but they're slow right now. It's still a wonderful time to get the attention of the people that are the main trigger-pulling decision makers in the economy, right? Anybody that you're getting in touch with that's a doctor, a lawyer, an electrician, just about any type of business that's a professional service or even a home service to any degree whatsoever, that still have a viable market and they're a good viable business, going after them right now, it's a prime target because they have the time to sit through demos and listen to you. And talking to them about retooling and getting ready for 2020, it's very, very easy conversation to have, because they see the utility of the web probably now more than ever, since everybody's online right now to such a degree that it's even slowing down trunks in the internet. Really important thing to do. Make sure that when if you're going to talk to them about websites, have a game plan. Go in, look up the competitors, do the research, just go through, and it's not that hard, right? And remember this too. Remember this conversation I had with somebody was really good a couple days ago, and I was telling them, look, your competitors, again, they're not salespeople. They have no sales ability. They don't know closes at all. Most of these folks, if you ask them what close do you use to sell sites, they'd say, what's a close? Literally, they would ask you, what do you mean? I don't sell stuff. I'm a website consultant. They'll say something like that, or I own a digital marketing agency, but I'm not a salesperson. They don't even think of themselves as salespeople, most of them, literally. And if you don't believe me, call some agencies up. There's a whole lot of them out there. Call them up. A lot of them don't even feel like they handle sales. They say, oh, sales, I'm more of a consultant. Or if they say they're a salesperson, but you ask them a sales question, they'll not know anything about it. Don't think you're up against people that are way more educated in sales than you. Probably, if anything, the imbalance exists where you're not studying enough to be technically competent as them. And that technical competence translates into confidence, which translates into them making sales because other people pick up on it and buy from them because they feel that they're getting a better deal. And maybe they're not. Many times they're not getting a better deal. Anyhow, guys, I'm going to wrap up tonight's webinar. It's great speaking with you all here. Best of luck out there, guys. Bye, everyone.